Okay. So tell us, Dave, how did this continue to escalate then?
Well, each time I would go to court, of course, I wouldn't win. It was, once again, without representation or without being able to, know the justice system. A citizen can't defend himself because of the court system. It's set up where you might not be able to prevent your evidence because of you don't know how to prevent it, or you don't know the procedure. So you're a fool if you try to represent yourself, and more than likely you will lose. And so affording an attorney is almost out of the question on these cases. So you just take your lumps, but each time this would happen, I would comply and tone back the things that were bothersome at the time, but it didn't seem to appease them, so they used the same method, the same charges to continue to come back.
So let's get to the head of it. Let's get to the big, the big thing. I mean, Walt Serral came by,
Walt
right?
Serral was the
he's the code enforcement officer.
He's the code enforcement officer now. 3 months after he was hired, I received my first, which would have been my third summons
from him.
Yes, and it's kind of ironic that after just 3 months on the job in the city of Whitehall that I get coded for the same things I've been coded for in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it started out real insignificant.
And so what did Mr. Serral do?
What happened at that particular time, I had placed a couple of items out on the curb before a designated trash day pickup, and he noticed them and came up onto my porch to put a sticker, when usually they put the sticker on the merchandise that's out on the curb, letting the homeowner know that it should be taken back till trash day. Regardless, he came on my porch, then he saw the furniture that I had. Once again, it's not visible. You cannot tell anything as you drive by. However, then he went to my backyard and took photographs of my...
How did he do that?
With a camera.
But what did he do? Did he
just walked
open the back door?
Yeah, and started photographing all the things I had in my backyard, which is a Fourth Amendment violation. It's curtilage, which
so tell me all these things. So he opened the gate to your backyard, and he took photographs of the backyard
Photographs of the backyard.
Okay.
He was...
Didn't he get up on a roof?
He got on my neighbor's roof to photograph down into my backyard to look at the structures I had constructed to protect my property from getting wet. And he went on my neighbor's property without permission to shoot through my trellis, which at that time in March had no foliage on it, so he could see through the trellis my backyard and the things I had in it. And from that, he used those photographs to charge me with another violation of indoor.
And he also took photos of your front porch, which is completely enclosed from the threshold. Of the porch.
Oh, sure. You cannot see my porch in any direction unless you come parallel to my porch.
Come up on the property, yeah.
And getting back to, he came on my neighbor's property, who was an elderly woman who was a friend of mine, and when I confronted him over the phone, who gave you permission to go on Wanda's property, he told me Mrs. Polisimo did. And I thought it rather odd that she would give him permission, and I did ask her later on that evening, and she said she did not give him permission to go on her property. I called, and she ended up calling him and quite upset that he would say that. He was led over to her property by my neighbor that we share a driveway with, who's also a collaborator in collusion with the old man, John Artis, who initiated it. And so things started escalating. It was being, well, let me show you what else he has kind of thing. And it ended up, Walt had come completely around my property, taking photographs. When the whole issue began, when I had 2 Nordic track working pieces that I put out Monday for the trash.
Yeah.
in the sense that I had no space for them and couldn't find a buyer for them. However, that was, as far as I'm concerned. And then he goes back and finds out that I've been gigged before for the same violations, and with that knowledge, he wrote me another summons.
So this was summons number 3. Okay. And if you could move on and tell us about number 4, and then the end of
number
all
4.
that.
Let's see. Number 4 was basically pretty much the same thing. It is all. It's all a visible. How should I say this? In my driveway, I would have things I'm repairing. This is where I work.
Right.
I would have stuff out, and anytime I had stuff out, Walt Thrall would make it a point and always come by when I'm not here. I've never been here. He's never had permission. I have never given him anything. He's never had court documents. He's never had anything that would permit him to be on my property. But yet, this seems to be the modus. This would be the standard operating procedure, I guess, in the city. You don't need to respect anybody's property or their rights.
Mm-hmm.
You can just come on, and he makes sure I'm not home.
Huh.
And also, he's also being advised by my neighbor as to what I'm doing. Because those are the only 2 people that have been as complaintiffs, so to speak, and not even mentioned in any of the complaints.
Yeah.
It's.
So what was the end result of all this at this point?
At that point, the 4th one, I ended up talking to Walt about it, and because of I had cleaned up some of the things he was concerned with, trying to comply, but not all the way. He said, plead guilty, because I had to go to court again in Franklin County, and I'll call down and only get you a $50 fine, and make it easy on you. So that's what I did.
Yeah. They're so giving.
So what I did is I pled guilty was fined, that was number 4. Are we on 4?
Yeah, this is the 4th one. This is the end of the 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. The $50 fine was on number 3. I'm sorry. There's so many of them, they're confusing.
Okay.
$50 fine after it was all said and done when he came over and got on photo in my backyard. I got a $50 fine, but pled guilty. Number 4, same thing. However, I talked to the the prosecutor for the city in Columbus, had a discussion with him, and he decided to dismiss the case if I would clean up some area in between my garage, which I shared with my neighbor, who also had stuff in there also. It was dismissed. The last one, number 5, was the same thing. I had an on-site hearing by the judge finally, and short story long, I still had to comply with something. The only thing that was a problem, I had indoor furniture on my enclosed porch, and there's nothing that says I can't have it on there. And everything else the judge would let go.
So in other words, it was
other charges involved too.
A quid pro quo.
Quid pro quo, but the interesting about this, Jerry, is that this time there were 3 summonses. 2 of them were for one for artificial flowers in my landscape,
right,
and one for chipping paint. The irony is I'm the second person in 15 years ever to be charged with artificial flowers, which is kind of pulls this thing in together. And not only that, there was never any remedy. It was just a summons for both of them, which is improper procedure. I went to court. I had a public defender because the chipping paint, believe it or not, can get you 30 days in jail. I got a public defender. We did a quid pro quo. Things were dismissed on one of the charges if I would agree to clean them up, which they were, and that's the status now. 5 years, 5 court appearances, and it is nothing but harassment due to a personal agenda by the public servant officer, Ray Ogden, who is grinding his axe. Statements have been made, I'd be better off being out of Whitehall.